All right. Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to give everybody just a couple more seconds here to log in. I'm going to also ask for everyone's patience a little today because we're talking about approval processes, and that means that there is a lot of logging in and out as other people. So I'm hoping I have all the passwords straight and that I will be able to progress through this fairly quickly, but there's always, as always, lots and lots to cover. All right, so then of course sometimes the logins, I tried to also get them all so that I didn't have to do any cell phone verification or anything like that throughout this, so we'll see. Okay, let's get the ball rolling. So first of all, if anybody can do some hand raising to let me know that you can see my screen okay, that you can hear me okay, that would be fantastic. I appreciate you for that. Thank you so much. Awesome. Just lets me know everything's going well. Okay, so as a reminder, a little bit about Fourlane before we start here. So for uniques, what makes Fourlane unique? We are the #1 QuickBooks solution provider. We have been since 2010. That means that we have a lot of QuickBooks clients, specifically QuickBooks Enterprise clients. It's a very, very unique segment of the small to mid-sized business, and we've been working with enterprise clients since day one. It's always been our focus. We also, a couple of years ago, took on an ERP product, Acumatica, so we're going to be looking at both of those today. And there's very few people who have bridged that gap. So we are one of those firms out there that have bridged that gap from QuickBooks into ERP. So that is something that sets us apart. We are experts in accounting and systems. If you guys have attended some of my webinars before, you'll hear me talk about how I do interviews for ERP consultants sometimes, and they don't always understand what a balance sheet is, right? And when we're setting up any kind of accounting system, the whole point is to get to that balance sheet. Of course, budgeting and stuff beyond that, but we need to understand where we're driving all this data towards. And that's something that we do well. We can talk debits and credits here at Fourlane. We can also talk workflow, systems, setup, so a little bit of all of that mixed in. And then of course, we're project managers for change management. Although we do some recurring services with our customers, we are mostly working with customers when they are going through a change. That's a little bit there. A reminder too, everything that we do here should be focused on getting data to make decisions. Data is the most important thing we have nowadays. We have access to so much more data. We can put data in a more consolidated view. And so workflows to eliminate manual entry of data, workflows to eliminate people having, I like to say, islands of information, right? We want all the data accessible so that we can make decisions. So we work to get that for our customers. All right, let me get in products. So the first product that we're going to start with today is QuickBooks Online Advanced. So QuickBooks Online Advanced does have something new called Workflows. And Workflows has a couple of things that you can do in here. So when I come in and create a new workflow, I have the opportunity to do invoice approval. So this is sales transaction approval that we have the option to do. Obviously, in the future, potentially there will be other approvals that are happening, but right now it's just invoice approval. There are other automations that we can create. You guys can see them here, but this is what we're going to be focused on today. So I can create a new invoice approval, right? I can name it whatever it is. I can have different conditions in QuickBooks Online Advanced. So based on invoice amount, based on customer is within, some kind of range. I can also do it based on location, right? So in QuickBooks Online Advanced, they have a field called location that is maintained at the header of transactions. So we can also do conditions based on location. So I'm just going to set up an invoice amount, right, is greater than or equal to $1,000. So what I'm saying here is if an invoice is created, and notice it's just invoice, right? We're not talking estimates here. If an invoice is created that is greater than or equal to $1,000, then go and do this, right? So create a task for whoever you have set up as a user, send a notification to whoever you need to send notifications to, email and mobile if they use the mobile app. If not improved within 7 days, send a reminder. Then down below here, we can say who we're sending it to. It has some, right, invoice and then document number requires approval and a message down below that we can modify. So to see it in action, again, I tried to do this. Let's see if it's maintained it. So I am never missing a beat. So I'm logged into an incognito tab as one of my users. So if I come in here and create an invoice, and I choose my customer, Sally Company, and I'm just going to come down here and add a amount of $2,500. So when I do that, I say save, pops up, and it says, hey, you need approval for this invoice. So I can send for approval. Now it marks that invoice as pending. Popping back into my other account here. So here where I'm logged in as a different person, I'm logged in as the admin actually. Then I have my tasks. And so it shows me here that I have one invoice to approve. So I can click through into the invoice, review everything here, and just mark it approved. Okay. Or of course I could just approve it here. And it tells me I'm all caught up, done all my tasks. Okay, so that's QuickBooks Online Advanced. QuickBooks Desktop does not have any approvals built in currently. Definitely one of the things that we talk about with the desktop team, that is something that sets it apart from others. So the way that we work it in QuickBooks Desktop, so there are a couple of apps that will allow for approval processes. Personable has one, DMS Workflow. Some people use Bill.com to kind of manage those approvals for them on expenses. If people want to do it in product, if we're training them on how to do it in product, basically we use permissions to do that. So we would have somebody set up in the file, and when they go in, when you set up them as a user, right, you would allow them to do, and I'll show you this when I log back in as admin, you would allow them to create this transaction, a purchase. So you can do this on purchase orders or sales orders or in here, or estimates or invoices or whatever. But you would create the transaction. So they would create the transaction, but their permissions would not allow them to print the transaction that they are not allowed, right, approved to do. So they can mark it for print later, they can mark it for email later, but my permissions right now, if I go in and try to email this purchase order, it tells me I need print access in order to email this purchase order, right? So that prevents me from sending it out. At the same time, we have this status over here. So we will, use these. Again, this is a manual choice and people can make mistakes, right? But I create a purchase order and I would put it in waiting for approval status. So this is just a custom field that I have set up at the header level of this transaction type. I would stick it in waiting for approval. I can have it default to waiting for approval so that they don't even have to worry about it. And we can show you how to do that. And then basically I would be logging out, right, as whoever the user is, and then I'm going to log back in as the admin. Maybe that's what I was saying. It's going to mess with me today. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to log back in as the admin. And when I log in as the admin, of course, we would have a report that we've created. That report would show, maybe if I go in and do a custom transaction detail report for all time, we would filter this report for posting status of non, because I'm looking at purchase orders, which are non-posting transactions. And then we would filter it for status, right, of, oh, I forget the status, sorry, pending approval, waiting for approval. Okay, oops, that must not be it. Let me look. So on the purchase order itself, vendor center. And okay, all of my fun pop-ups. Waiting, can't see it, waiting approval. So on my report here, I would go in and filter it for waiting approval, not waiting for approval. And then it would show me all of my purchase orders that I have to go and approve. Now that I have the permissions, I can come in here and say, everything looks okay. Let me go ahead and mail this out. Okay. So not great, but it's a way to do it. We get creative sometimes. Okay, coming into Acumatica. So of course, Acumatica does have approval processes built in. So the way to find these, you can just go to the search up top here and type in approval. So we have our tasks, right? This is going to be, once I've submitted it, what needs to be approved. We have reports. So here are bills pending approval. So this is a report I've already pre-built. And then of course we have the configuration, which is the approval maps. This also has assignment maps built in. So assignment maps would be something along the lines of, you know, we have a lead that gets entered in the system. If the lead is in Texas, then it automatically gets assigned to this sales rep, right? Texas is in this sales rep territory, as an example. So it's auto assignment, right, of transactions, list items based on some kind of criteria. So you can do that in here as well. But we're talking about approvals today. So I wanted to show you guys a couple of approval mappings that have been set up in the system. So one that is kind of the most simple and obvious. So this is a two-step PO approval process. And so over here we have the tree, right, of, you know, what happens first, second, etc. So we have first, we want to approve by the finance team. Then next, if it's a large PO, then we are going to have a secondary approval. So the rules are set up over here. So you can see all of the different columns that we have available. Obviously, just like in anything Acumatica, you can add or remove columns if they are not useful to you. So what this is saying, if we read through it, is this is an assignment of approval, so approved by the finance team. It needs to go to finance. There is no wait time, no delay. You know, you would say who you're assigning it to down here. If you have anybody specific, this is just going to the work group of finance. So somebody in finance needs to approve this, not a specific person who needs to approve this, okay, in this situation. Then down below here, we say, what are the conditions? So it says, if purchase order, right, field is on hold, if it equals on hold, and then go to the approval work group ID, right? Or if the approval work group ID is null, then go ahead and ask for approval. Then down below here, that we have the next one. Okay, so finance has approved it. However, if the purchase order, right, control total field is greater than $1,000, then we need a secondary approval who is not going to a specific, it's a work group executive, but it's going to a specific person, Michael Andrews, who's going to be responsible for approving all purchase orders greater than $1,000. Okay, and so with these, what it will do on the purchase order itself is it will leave them on hold until somebody comes in and does the approval. Right? So that's one. That's a pretty simple one. Obviously, it's on purchase orders. You could do the same thing on sales orders, invoices, anything else in there. Okay. Another one that we have is we have project quote approval. I think that this one's pretty cool as well. So if we take a look at this, what we're saying is what are the conditions, right? So the sales manager has approval process here. So we're saying if the gross margin, again, a field, right? So it's pulling from a field on the quote is less than or equal to, and this is 20%, then, you know, we need approvals, okay? If there's a manual project amount, we need approvals. And then project manager is responsible for filling in a realistic start date. So anyway, I've had that question quite a bit on the sales side. We want to maintain our margins, and if anybody decides to go outside of the margins that we expect, we want an approval process to happen. So that's possible here. Okay. Some more simple ones, right? Expense claim approvals, right? So department claims go to, right, the group that they're within and assign all other claims to finance. Okay, so some simple ones there. Also, we have time card approvals. You can see that one in there. Equipment time cards, you can actually put in time cards for equipment in Acumatica. So anyway, so different approvals. So you see the workflow there. So if I go in, let me find my incognito tab. Oh, I think I closed out of it and log in as Wiley. Here we go. Of course, it's not going to let me now. Wiley. Always in a demo, right? I ran through it this morning, and it is not picking up my Wiley person. Okay, I will just progress forward. So basically what would happen, I'm just going to show it to you in as the admin because it won't let me in as my Wiley secondary person here. So when I go in and I create my purchase order, right? I put in here the type, I put in the vendor, so search for my AA vendor. And so as the user, it would maintain it on as hold pending approval. Okay, so they would not be able to uncheck that button. They would not be able to check approved, obviously, because they would not be the approver on this purchase order. So if I come down here and I add an item, right, it would have to be above a certain dollar amount that we have set up. We had $1,000 set up as the above the certain dollar amount. And now I'm logged in as the admin in this instance. So I'll be able to see, oops, I'm not pushing it. I'll be able to see all of everybody's approvals, not just my own approvals in here. Okay. Now on the document itself, a couple of things. So again, it would mark it, leave it on hold. I would not be able to uncheck this, okay, until somebody came in and approved it. On the document itself, you have actions where you can come in and approve or reject. So they can open up the document themselves or itself. Also on the document itself, they will maintain the approval details. So who has approved it, when they approved it, or who's pending approval still on this document. Okay, so all of that is attached right there. When you have things that you need to approve, it's actually under the time and expenses tab. Okay, so you have all of your approvals that need to be reviewed. Now, of course, I have no approvals, so I would be able to look at different tabs here, right? My work groups approvals. So you can have these just as with other list views. I can filter the all records. My poor demos. So I can filter my all records here. You can see everything that needs to be approved if you have access to see it, or you can limit it down to my approvals by doing a filter and saving that filter, or I can look at my work group, so everybody who's in, right, finance team, operations team, whatever it is, filtered down, and see my approvals there. Then you would be able to mass select and mass approve all. The other thing, or mass reject all, right? And you can drill down from there. I don't know why it's showing nothing for me on here. It's like 10 this morning when I'm doing this stuff. I must be logged in somewhere else. The other thing that you can do is you can also, I mean, this kind of defeats the idea of an approval a little bit, but we can add automations around approvals. So I don't know if we've built a too elaborate approval tree and it says, you know, if Mike has approved it, then I will always approve it. You can build automations around approvals as well. Or as an example, something could be an automatic rejection, which would be if the gross margin is ever outside of 20%, then just reject it. I don't even want to look at it. I don't want to review it. Just mark it as rejected. So that might be an automation that you could come up with, right, to kick it back to somebody before you even have to review it. So we can set up automations around approvals as well. Okay. Let me see if we have any questions. Got through that a lot faster because I couldn't show you guys the Wiley side, and I don't want to spend time trying to figure out how to log in as my user Wiley in my incognito tab over here. Probably when I was messing around earlier, I must have like mass select and hit approve, and that's why I can't see anything. All right. Don't see any questions coming in around approvals. So if we don't see anything else, then that's really all I have for you guys today. So I hope you were able to take some little nuggets away, right? Between QuickBooks does amazing things. QuickBooks Online obviously is progressing right along. QuickBooks Desktop, I mean, they don't have anything built in, but we have some workflows that we can show you. And then obviously when you get into an Acumatica ERP product, that there are opportunities for approval mapping and approval trees built into the system, so don't have to go outside. All right, guys, well, that's all I have, and I'm not seeing any questions come in, so I'll go ahead and give you back a couple of minutes today. Oh, I just had a question come in. Is this system online or on a desktop? So Acumatica is a program. It's different than a lot of ERP systems out there, right? They are either desktop or online. Acumatica actually gives you the opportunity to run it through, like, you know, Amazon Web Services, which is the SaaS version, which most people have. So you can run it online, but you do not have to have internet access. You can run it through an intranet if needed, so you can take it down completely local on your computer. You can also host it in with a hosting provider. So right now I'm logged in to our Acumatica demo file, which is hosted by Skyline, one of our hosting partners. So you have options, which is very unusual for ERP systems, which is one of the key reasons why we picked this product, because to represent for our customers, because what that means is that you truly own your data. You're not renting your data from somebody else, right? If it is hard to get your data out of someone's system, or they do not allow you to bring it local and function offline from the internet, then you're renting your data from them, in my opinion. So we don't send our clients down that direction. We want them to be in a product where they have the ability to mass pull out data whenever they need to. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. All right, guys. Give you back 5 minutes still of your day. I hope everybody had little takeaways, and please let us know if there's anything that we can do to help. Thank you.